You're all welcome to the very first London, Ontario user group meetup. So this is our virtual meetup. We hope to have more in-person meetups in future. So I am Cyril Bandolo. I'm the organizer of this group. So I'm also excited to see you all here, whether you're tuning in from London or from Ontario or even beyond, you're all welcome. The purpose of this group is to connect learners, enthusiasts, professionals. Even if you have a story, you created your first S3 bucket, you can always come share whatever. Even if you tried and it didn't work, you're all welcome here. It's for everybody, it's for anyone, so that we can explore the AWS tools together. We can look at the best practices together, some real life experience, something you built and you're learning from, or you failed or it worked. Whatever, we look at that together. And also simply just to make new friends. Sometimes in winter, it can get so cold and lonely. So meetups like this would help us meet each other, make new friends, as well as support each other, because it's a community we are building. It's just everything. It can be anything. It can be everything. We are the ones who make it what it is. Today, our focus, GenAI, has been everywhere. I think even a kid who is 1 year old must have heard the word GenAI and can even spell it. So everyone is talking about GenAI. We've been through, okay, it's a hype cycle. We are in discovery, the zone of despair, the valley of despair. There are so many theories that are in and out and left and right. So I had a discussion with somebody and we're like, I don't think software developers use GenAI. Some say no, it's just for fun projects. Some say it's real. So we said, okay, that's fine. Let's get this panel so that we can bring in experts in machine learning, software development, security experts, cloud training experts from the different points of views. So let's really understand, is this still today a hype or is actually a reality? Thanks to Serverless Guru, our sponsor, we would be doing a raffle draw at the end. So the winners who have a t-shirt like this shipped to them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm all the way up here in Scarborough, Ontario. I guess the most major, closest city to me is Thunder Bay. And if you ever come up to Thunder Bay, you should always try to get some Heartbeat. I love this hot sauce. This is a dill pickle flavored. They have a blueberry one. Yeah, if you want to buy local, that's in Canada. That's a really good one there. I run Exam Pro Training Inc. We create educational certification content. We run free boot camps. In the scope of GenAI, I recently made a GenAI Essentials course that was 22 hours that went on a free code camp, and we just wrapped up our 6-week boot camp for GenAI, which was practical hands-on. Of course, Rolla was our expert guest instructor. Yeah, I led people through GenAI. I'm not an expert in GenAI, but I'm a practitioner, and that's the information I'm going to bring here today. Sorry.
Thank you. Dennis, over to you.
Hi guys, Dennis, based in Langley, British Columbia, solution architect at Ops Guru, AWS community hero as well. Yeah, and I'm owner of YouTube channel called ADV-IT with many IT tutorials. They know most of the tutorials not on English, so yeah, don't run to subscribe. But yeah, I have some on English as well. Yeah, happy to be here and share my knowledge. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Rolla. You next?
My name is Rolla Daddy. I am a machine learning architect. I'm in Montreal, Canada. I work as a consultant. So what I do is I help clients understand their ML needs first, and then help architect and build the systems they do need. My background is in academia. I have a PhD in neuroscience and bioinformatics. I'm an AWS community builder and a Golden Jacket ambassador.
Great. Mark?
Yeah, hi. My name is Mark Nonakoven. I'm in Ottawa, so nice to have the whole Canadian panel, which is great. I work for AWS now in the office of the CISO. I'm a former community hero. I was in the program 2017 through to when I joined Amazon a couple years ago. As far as AI, I deal with it all the time from a security perspective, but also I've been working in AI. I've been a member of the Computational Intelligence Society with the IEEE for 18 years, according to the records, which is kind of crazy. So well before GenAI and a whole bunch of other stuff. So yeah, happy to be here.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks. So let's start. So my first question, I'll start with you, Andrew. So what excites you most about this whole GenAI boom right now? I know you just finished your bootcamp and you have lots of things to pour on this panel.
all the money you can make because everyone's so excited about it. The reason I got into Gen AI was because I wanted to. I'm trying to learn Japanese, right? Probably should be learning French, but I'm learning Japanese, and I just wanted additional learning resources, and Gen AI was like a really good fit for that as a use case. Um, but in terms of its applications, like I can see up here where I am for the municipalities that they could leverage generative AI to help with economic development, to capture all the information about their town meetings and extract meaningful information. So I see benefit for that. I do find it hard to figure out what the use cases are for Gen AI, and so I just stick with the ones that I know. And I'm hoping to see more use cases, but I think it's very promising. But again, I think Gen AI is just one other tool in our tool belt, but we'll talk about that. Sorry.
For me, I can say something like to add to it. For me, it's like piece of innovation. Something like every day you see like new models which can give you a little bit more, a feature and give you more information, give it better information from the already old information. So it's a really new capability which you can use and you have to use for sure.
I'm most interested in so all of the hype brings a lot of money, like Andrew Brown said, and the money available for research, for us to advance things like this, it allows us to understand more what intelligence is, how we develop it, what does it tell us about human intelligence. So I spend a lot of time studying intelligence on the brain, so it's very interesting to me what we learn about intelligence in general. From a practical point of view, I see a lot of different use cases every day, and they're very exciting. I use most code assistants because I'm an engineer on the ground. That's the one that's most relevant to me.
Okay, Mark?
Yeah, as you can imagine, in the day job, working in the security for AWS, I see all sorts of different uses. You name it, we can see it. But personally, I find it super useful as sort of a second set, double checking things. Because it can be. I don't like it having it generate things from the scratch, but I like it when it's able to verify things. So you use some code assistants. Polishing things is good, ironically, because I think I'm probably one of the old folks here. My teenagers are using it as like editors, not so they'll like give the GenAI model the rubric from school and say, "Here's my essay that I wrote themselves, thankfully. Here's the rubric as to how it's being evaluated. Show me where I'm wrong." And I'm like, that's super useful, super clever. So like everyone, seeing all sorts of different uses, seeing a lot fail, seeing some be successful. So it's interesting times for sure.
Well, still with you, Mark, would you say it's delivering real business value, or are we still exploring it? What would you say about its value?
I think it's so. More often than not, no, I don't think it is delivering business value because I think people over rotate on the experiments because they just go, we need to use AI, you go use AI. I see that way more than I should. That being said, when it's approached reasonably and someone goes, this is what I'm trying to achieve, and they actually design an experiment for it, I see a lot of good success. And so I think it's like any tech. And I mean, this happened. Pick any tech that goes mainstream or gets into the hype cycle, and you'll see it where people are just like, we need to do it. Why? Because everyone else is. And they just kind of wander aimlessly. And I see that probably more often with this. But the cases where people actually spec it out and have a purpose, they tend to have a lot of success. So I think it's still a lot of hype, but there is a real value there if you approach it smartly.
I wanted to add, it's remind me right now hype with the AI. Same as, I don't know, let's say maybe 9 years ago or 8 years ago with Kubernetes, everyone used Kubernetes. It's Kubernetes. Doesn't matter. You have a static website, you need to run it on Kubernetes. It's same right now. We see like the customers just AI. We need to use some AI, but there's no any value for what you want to solve. There's no any value. We need to use AI because it will be AI powered. Powered by AI. So it's like marketing. It's really hype. And for many companies, for many really startups, it's really hype. I think just to let it know, yeah. As the hype was maybe 10 or even 15 years ago, powered run on AWS. It also hype, it's running on the cloud. It was wow. Now it's basically just something you cannot impress anyone. It's running on AWS. It's everyone running on AWS.
Yeah. Rola, do you think same?
I think the first 2 years were a lot of POCs and testing. I think now we're starting to see people becoming more serious about it, more structured. We see a lot of our clients having really good ideas. They come with ideas and they say, we want to try to do this. We start with a POC, and because we are not sure whether the technology can do it, right? It's a general purpose technology, and whether it can fulfill a particular task that the client wants to do, right? So we're not sure. And so we try a POC, and we're always surprised, actually. We're always surprised as a team at what it can do. So I think we are starting to get into real production value, but it's still trickling in, I think. It's not mainstream.
Okay, yeah. So Andrew, you have something to add to that?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, our business is content creation, right? And I think we have a lot of applications to use GenAI because it generates things. And so, and also when we talk about GenAI, it's not just large language models, right? We have ones that generate out audio, images, and things like that. And so for asset creation, for marketing, it's been really, really good for us. For putting up very simple websites for different community projects and things like that, it's been really good. I've been one of the early pioneers using synthetic voices. Like I have muscle tension dysphonia, so sometimes I can't record, and we'll just synthetically generate my voice. But where it hasn't really worked for us is for creating good learning material. So it can produce information, but it tends to not be very good. And when I say that, I mean, like, yes, you can generate out, like, go write me a tutorial, go make me all the content to put into slides. But to make really good content, you need to curate it, and only a human seems to be able to do that right now. When we ran our free GenAI bootcamp with all of our boot campers, which made up of all kinds, not just students, but we had people that were in data science, data science or C-suite or things like that going through it. And what was interesting was to see how much domain knowledge that we could all build up, and see, can people actually, do they have enough capacity to produce the ideas that they had? And we found that that the community domain knowledge on GenAI, like to actually build it, is still very immature. And so until we raise that bar and build it up, it's really hard to say what the outcomes are until we bring that stuff up. But out of the 10,000 boot campers, there's like only 3 people that actually were able to set out and fully realize what they were trying to build, which is that's a huge gap from what I was expecting.
Yeah. So yeah, that's really serious. So I would like to ask, Dennis, what do you think is the biggest misconception about GenAI today? Like, what is really misconception?
Today I think the misconception, like maybe 2 misconceptions, not one. I will tell the 2. The AI, generative AI can replace human completely. In 2025, probably not. Let's see in the next year or next 2 years, maybe, it can replace on some, areas completely. It can replace human without any, editing after it. And the second misconception, I think that many people think, you just plug the model and that's it. It just will work like the best for you. No, you need to make some tuning, make some context RAG augmentation or something. It will not give you the best value if you will just send your request, and you will not receive the best value. You need to teach this model little bit how you want to get the teach this model maybe your language, what language and the reply that you want to receive. So yeah, I think this is my thought about it.
Okay, so let's talk about the adoption a bit more. So, Mark, how are enterprises using AWS GenAI tools today, such as Bedrock, SageMaker? How are they actually using it?
Yeah, I think that, so there's 2 very different use cases, Bedrock versus SageMaker. Unfortunately, SageMaker is not just one thing, it's a whole suite of things, right? And so it's basically what ends up happening is people who are wanting to build more and sort of deploy at a mid-level, they'll be going with the SageMaker. But I think we're seeing way more activity in Bedrock because Bedrock lets the enterprises experiment in a safe way. Because essentially what it is a harness around those models that they can apply all of the security and data access that they're used to around their data and still take advantage of the models because there was obviously a huge concern when they're like, cool, I'm just gonna, someone's just gonna spin up access to whatever, whether it's Anthropic or ChatGPT or something like that, and just start sending company data out. Probably not the smartest thing for a lot of folks in their risk models. So we see a lot of customers spinning up experiments in Bedrock, tuning it on, Daryl or Dennis had mentioned going with, setting up a RAG, and so like giving it your own knowledge base. That's, I think, where most enterprises are seeing the real business value because as opposed to generic answer, I want to see this specific answer. I think it was Daryl in the comments who had mentioned he's seeing some customer trying, looking at product documentation and things like that. That is a huge and probably the number one use case I see across customers is getting that customized response within the boundary of their company. And of course, you have to be careful because it can not AWS related, but we all probably all did because we're Canadian. Air Canada had a challenge a couple months ago where their chatbot gave an incorrect policy answer because they just made up a policy, but it sounded good. And so, enterprises are a little gun shy on that kind of a thing, but they see the value of being able to point it at their own documentation and pull out that type of information. Actually, there's been a couple good community projects around AWS docs and being able to point AI at them to get better answers because the docs are, to say they're a labyrinth is polite. And so that kind of thing is huge. So that's where we see most companies seeing that value, I think, today.
Okay, yeah, thank you. So, Roland, if you could only choose one GenAI tool or service, which one will it be?
I would probably go with SageMaker, not SageMaker AI that they're calling, but SageMaker as a platform. I think they're setting it up to be an end-to-end data to train, to deploy, to maintain. So it's supposed to be a full end-to-end platform. So it's kind of cheating, but I'd go with that.
Okay. And Andrew?
Just AI?
Yeah, choose one GenAI tool. One GenAI tool.
I mean, I think I get the most out of the Nova model. They're super fast. They're very inexpensive. I don't know. That's probably what I would use if we're talking about GenAI in particular. So.
Okay. Now let's go on to you, Dennis. So, what are some ethical or practical risks you think we should be thinking about when it comes to this whole GenAI and adopting it in our workflows?
I think, the data which you're receiving from generative AI, it sounds really, really great, but it can be completely false information. Yeah, completely just not the correct information. It just generated some answer to you, but if you not know the topic, for you it will be really great. You can put your data, I don't know, into your presentation, into your essay to work, but it's complete false information. So yeah, you need to reread it and just know what it's writing. Just review it. Don't just blindly trust to generative AI, whatever it's creating, especially text generations. It can generate you basically just garbage, hallucination, I think it's called, on professional language. It's generating really nice words. It's just combination of words, but with no any, with nothing, with no any value of these words. Yeah, this is the best. And by the way, I wanted to reply to your previous question, which I will choose. I will choose Bedrock for sure. Not, for example, not SageMaker. Bedrock, it's super easy, really easy to use. You don't need the machine learning knowledge, to get into the AI, to create your first application. Like Bedrock really is super easy. Just everything already plugged in. Just super easy to use it. Very simple, really Python code, to send the request to get the response. Yeah, Bedrock for sure.
Okay, Roland, what do you think?
I think from a practical point of view, the thing that scares me most is like skill atrophy, people over relying on a particular technology that their own skill sets with time become less. I read a book about ML and how we're using it, for example, in flight, in airplanes and so on. What happens when the machine goes down and you're in the air, right? And your pilot has only flown with ML, right? So these things are a little bit scary. What happens? I wrote I wrote a bit of a blog once about, the GenAI boom started with a paper called "Attention is All You Need." It's very ironic given the attention span of humans. Like attention span in machines is going up, but attention span in humans is going down, right? So these are the things that keep me up all night in terms of how we use a particular technology. I'm worried about data and privacy protection. So I was talking to somebody a couple of weeks ago and he said, give me your email. And then he's like, no, Llama gave it to me. And that kind of scared me. Like the fact that there is not a lot of for these models to see or not to see or to say is a bit scary.
I have a question for you, Mark. Many major cloud providers based in US, and most of them are US owned. How should Canadian companies think about data sovereignty, especially when deploying GenAI solutions? So that's in terms of what are the trade-offs between innovation and compliance. You from a security perspective, I think that's a question we all want to hear right now.
Yeah, it's a light Saturday night question. Yeah, it's a common one, and I think the challenge is a twofold. So first of all, it's understanding what the actual risk is versus the possibility of it happening. And to be clear, I'm a security guy, not a lawyer. But the outside of the CSPs, one of the unfortunate realities of Canada is that 33% of our internet traffic transits through US hubs, period. Just the way the wires run. So there's a general question in that as far as where your data is going. But when it comes to sovereignty, it's always been a question, and it depends on what your concerns are and what your risk levels are. Obviously, things are a little more, let's be polite and say sensitive the last few months, and a little more challenging simply because we are questioning a lot of the things where we knew the boundaries were solid. And now the question is like, okay, is that really a boundary or are things going, or is that more flexible? When it comes to AWS, and I can only speak to obviously to AWS in this respect, yes, we have Canadian regions. The rules for our data, for customer data, is always the same. It stays in the region until you explicitly make a choice to move it, and that is up to you to make those decisions. So if you're concerned about that, you can sit it in the region you want. Obviously, as you mentioned, AWS is a U.S. owned company. We follow the law in every country we operate in. We are launching the European data or European sovereign cloud this year, which is completely separate legal entity with European operators in Europe, which falls under a different jurisdiction. But more practically for everybody, because these are all big giant issues and it's hard to kind of put your thumb on stuff and say like what exactly is the challenge. You need to understand where your data is, and mainly, looking at your encryption, where do your keys live and how are they used? And so if you're concerned about who's got access to your data, you factor that into your strategy. And so maybe you keep the keys in your own HMS. Maybe you have your keys sitting in a specific region. There are a lot of different options to match your threat model. And really, that's the first step. And what a lot of people don't do is, and it's understandable because I'll be honest, in security, we really are garbage at talking to people. What you need to sit down and figure out and go like, what are actually the issues here? Is it just that I'm concerned, or is there a real challenge to my business? And then there are always technical things you can do to mitigate it. There are ways to reduce that risk. Fundamentally, though, internally from AWS's perspective, we don't like accessing data if we don't have to, and we automate everything, and we actually build the entire infrastructure in a way that humans touch the least amount possible. So there was a really good audit of the hypervisors that and a bunch of other in the fabric, and that was audited by a third party to show where all those boundaries are. So there's a lot of factors to the answer, but it really comes down to what your risk model is, what you're actually concerned about, and then mitigating those things. And I've always found there's a solution. It really depends on the case. And I know that's not the best answer, but that's an honest and plain answer.
Yeah, thanks so much for that. Andrew, do you have?
I mean, I don't have answers, but I definitely have questions,
Yeah.
and
Okay,
I can basically just mirror what different CTOs or DOEs have been asking me about it. I think that the concern in Canada is that, well, again, because AWS is a US owned company, um, in Canadian data centers, the question really is that, yes, they're following our laws, but are there conflicting laws like the US Cloud Act or other ones where they could be in conflict and get access to that data? I like to believe that AWS is always going to act in their best interest, but because the US is not following their own rules, so to speak, there is that kind of fuzzy thing, and what we don't know is what we don't know. So there probably are guardrails in place. Mark probably knows what they are. I don't know what they are. And the other thing is where what do we really have to be concerned about? This is something I learned about Mark, which is you don't need to be paranoid about 100% of everything. You just need to know, again, as he said, the risk model, right? But I do know that there is a huge concern in Canada. A lot of places I'm talking to are starting to move towards cloud native stuff because in case they want to make sure they have an off ramp. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if these conflicting laws in the states pose a threat. I'm not sure if places should have an on ramp, and I'm not sure what parts we need to be concerned about and what parts we don't need to be concerned about. If that makes sense. Sorry. And which companies should actually care, right? If I'm running a website called bathmonstermoms.com, I shouldn't really be that worried, right? That's a domain I bought from 10 years ago that I keep talking about doing something with. But anyway, but I don't know if there's anything else to add there, Mark. But that's what I've been hearing, and that's what I keep thinking about.
Okay. Thanks for any other contribution, Dennis? Or you have something to chip in here? Anything?
Just, I don't know, from my perspective, just if you're concerned, don't use. If you don't concern, just use only Canadian regions. So the data physically will be data locality, low. It will be compliant because your data is in Canada. For example, if you were using some, health information, so in Canadian health information should be in Canada. But otherwise, and yeah, things like AWS probably will not copy it just on some specific reason, to any other regions if you will not tell it to copy.
Just to jump in real quick to non-AWS guidance for everybody, follow the BC government guidelines. They're the most stringent in Canada when it's respect to sovereignty and the Canadian issues and a Canadian view on security and privacy. The BC provincial government has, obviously they fall in line with all the federal regulations, but they also have slightly more strict than the other provinces in place. So if you are looking for solid guidance that is very, down home Canadian, the BC government they were the longest before they allowed anyone to go into any cloud providers because they have a higher bar than the other provinces. So if you're looking for unbiased Canadian-born recommendations, look to the BC government for that. And they're obviously, because of the government, freely accessible online, and you can get some solid guidance that's been backed by their lawyers and their tech experts, and they've done the research.
Interesting. Thanks for these contributions. So everything is moving so fast. We've seen GenAI move that fast over the past few years. So I would like to run this panel through. So Andrew, how do you see GenAI evolving in the next 12 to 24 months?
I really don't know. I mean, my goal to explore it is to run another cohort because I really don't know. And we've never done this for our boot camps. We ran a second cohort, but we're going to run another cohort near the end of the year and see how much these models develop. I keep wondering, and maybe Rolla has a better sense of this, but when are these models going to reach the LLMs in their current state? When are they going to, that's all we're going to get out of them, right? And then it's just about working through those use cases and optimizing those use cases. Most people don't know, we hear about fine tuning, but how do most people can't practically do it, and we really haven't again built up the domain knowledge. So I'd probably ask that more to Rolla than me. But sorry, yep.
I think to follow up, I think what we're going to see in the next 12 to 24 months, I think we're going to see new classes of models. So the current LLMs are built on transformers. They're what we call autoregressors. So they they work token by token, right? They're optimizing tokens. They don't have a model of the world. They don't understand physics or math. They have a lot of issues with numbers because of the way they tokenize. And now they've chugged in a lot of data. Jan LeCun says they've read 20,000 years worth of data. So even at the probability level, when you take in that much data, it starts to make sense. But there is a fundamental problem with the architecture itself. And Jan LeCun, who's one of my favorite researchers, he keeps saying the current models are an off-ramp, right? So I think we're going to see fundamentally different algorithms than what we currently have. And I think that's an active point of research today.
Okay, Mark, do you have something?
Yeah, I think not so much a technology, but I think people are going to hopefully start to better sort between subjective and objective uses. And that will line up with where they start to invest the tech side. So there's a lot of challenges with GenAI around the objective, whereas with the subjective, it's much better. So, we deal with this insecurity as a use of applying AI to security all the time. And people keep asking, like, what are great examples of using AI in security? It's like, we don't use it that much because we want objective, quantifiable, measurable, like this is absolutely a problem versus this is not a problem. Whereas getting an opinion on something or, like Andrew was saying, your marketing and things like that, uses where it's subjective are far more practical. And I think that lines up where people will start to see more investments. And so I saw in the comments someone was mentioning like MCP and A2A as far as connecting to other things. Really great. Security wise, freaked out because authorization and authentication is optional in MCP as a thing. So you don't feel like we're having a lot of things that are just wide open, which is terrifying to me. But I think it's in general what I think we're going to see in the next 12 to 24 is more refined uses as opposed to the broad uses. And I think, Rolly, you were talking about that as well. As far as the general purpose, I think very specific uses are where people are going to see value as opposed to, well, this thing does everything. Like, well, when, we don't need the AI equivalent of a spork. Like, give me actual utensils to do what I want to do.
Say also what I think where I see the generative AI in 2 years, maybe from today. Just interesting. Like a few days ago, I was in the cinema, and watching movie with my kids. Half of this movie, it's it's from computer graphic. But what I think is just what will be in the movie industry, cinema industry in 2 years. You basically all the movies based on a book or transcript. And basically, what you can do, just give the book and just type, okay, generate the movie from this book. That's it. You will have, and yeah, maybe you will need to put more instruction what you want to put. Maybe put really some context, images, context videos. So it will be based on your data. But really, you can generate movies completely from the book. And for sure, it will cost you like less than 10% of the budget what companies using right now. It will change some industries will change for sure because of the generative AI.
Okay, good. So now let's go to advice. We'll just do a round. Like, okay, so what advice do you have for someone who is looking to build or deploy a GenAI app on AWS, for example, and really wants to get serious with it? So I'm going to start with you, Dennis.
Start using, define your idea, define what you really need to accomplish, and I think try Bedrock. Don't start with SageMaker and build your models or something like this. Just try to use the existing models, put some context or augmentation. But yeah, I think the Bedrock it's easy start, really easy start for everyone. Start using it, and I'm pretty sure you maybe will stay on it. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, Rola.
I mean, I think my advice with everything is just start. You just need to take your first step, and there's a lot of resources out there. There's a lot of tutorials. There's a lot of resources out there. There's a lot of chaos too, which makes when there's a hype, there's a lot of chaos and noise. But there's a lot of really good people, sound voices that are putting a lot of information out there. I follow Dr. Jan LeCun, a few people I could send the names of, which are researchers / industry experts. That kind of helps understand that they're grounded. They understand the technology very well. Don't get, a lot of people are coming and don't get too worried about the noise. I get a lot of people saying, should I learn to code? Yes, you should learn to code. Yes, you should keep your critical thinking. Yes, you should live life the way you've been living life. Don't get drowned in a lot of noise. It's all just social media noise, really. Just keep doing what you normally do with any problem you tackle. Just start, follow the right people, read the right resources. If a resource doesn't work for you, switch to something that works for your personality and keep going.
Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, great advice so far from everybody. I think for me, the biggest one is start small and don't aim to replace. I think too many people go, okay, we're going to do an AI project that replaces this. Start with, we're going to do something that helps you finish this, right? So like encoding is where we've seen a lot of good success, where as an assistant, not as a doer, as an assistant, right? Because it's helping the engineer make the decisions and navigate through some SDKs and things like that. I've been using it the last couple of days to do a pet project in Apple ecosystem because I haven't coded in 10 years in Apple. Great way to remind me of stuff, but like every other thing it tells me is wrong. But because I have the critical thinking ish, I can work through it. And so I think for people starting out, have a clearly defined goal, but have that to be a helper, not a complete replacement. And you'll be way happier with the results. And you'll also be way more confident in the results because the people are still double checking and making sure, and you can adjust and tune because you're going to have to tune. It's not going to work first try.
Okay.
I think that the fundamentals are still really, really important. Even post boot camp, we found that folks still realize, I can have these things, write out all this code, but once I don't have access to the tool anymore to write the code, or it's not doing what I wanted to do, I now have to take over, but I don't know what I'm looking at, and they literally have to throw the whole thing away or dig through it until they understand of it. So you still have to be responsible 100% for what it's producing. And you need to learn a new habit of working with it and try to treat it as, okay, we're going to step through this one by one and wholly understand what we're doing. Data is still a very large component. So if you don't have good data skills, you're going to really struggle to do anything with your stuff. Understand that you can bring a lot of the tooling here. You don't have to throw everything in a vector store. Everyone's trying to use a vector store like a hammer, but we can still use our traditional databases. We can use a full text search. We can use graph databases, and build something that is something that you have domain experience in, and try to build it out as much as you can so that you can figure out, okay, does this thing actually do what I wanted to do? And of course, I'll go plug and say, hey, go take the GenAI Essentials course. Go do the GenAI Bootcamp, which literally came out yesterday and is doing really well on Free Code Camp. And if you're really stuck, you can join me next cohort, and we'll build something really fun together.
Yes, and that's cool. I hope we will be a part of your next bootcamp to boost that, support that, and also learn. This is part of what the community is here to do, to share and to learn. So for now, you can leave your emails. Please leave your emails in the chat so that we can do a spin. And at the same time, if you have questions, any questions for the panelists, just ask right now. So let me be dropping the emails here.
I'm just curious what people think about if AWS is really making headway versus OpenAI. I have no idea these days the percentage of people using OpenAI for GenAI cases versus using Bedrock. Is it Bedrock really small? I don't know. Do you guys know?
I mean, again, it depends if somebody from AWS wants to comment on it or has the domain knowledge on this one thing. But like, I use all the providers. I use all the models as a service. And just from a comparison, it's just like Azure has services that AWS doesn't have, and some of them have commonalities between the two of them. I think that what people utilize is, what they have at their work. When we're talking about Azure, I think that Azure has some very specific offerings that really are really, really good that go with it. So anyway, I just think that certain companies have certain synergies with their services, and that's what they're going to gravitate towards. You know what I mean? Like it's not like one or the other is winning. It's just where is your primary workload and what synergies do you have with existing services and where does your data live, right? It's going to be obviously a lot easier to work with Azure services if you have everything in Cosmo DB or their services there, right?
Yeah, we have access to all the clouds. We also have people working with Gemini and GCP. Our company probably is more on the Microsoft side, so that probably makes sense. But that's why, like you say, where the data is probably the most important part for a lot of the cases. So.
Yeah, the challenge with these models as a service is like they're trying to build an entire ecosystem around it to make it really convenient, but it's really hard to say whether you should invest that energy into it. Like for instance, in Microsoft Azure, they have Prompt Flow, and then AWS has Amazon Bedrock Agent. But do you really need these tools when you can just, again, use LangChain or even not use LangChain and build your pipeline? Do you want to invest all that infrastructure for these opinionated frameworks that have only been around for less than a year? I think the best approach is to go vanilla and to wire everything up yourselves and see how these things become stable over time. But again, I do love the convenience of these models. I do think that Azure has more deployment options, which could be good or bad depending on the way you look at it. But yeah, again, for me, it's just like I'm indifferent which one I use. Again, it's just where does my data reside?
Thanks, Andrew.
But oh yeah, sure.
Okay, thanks for that, Daryl. I think we are 1 hour in. Do you have any other questions? Okay, so that'll be.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, panelists, for your time. Thanks
Thank you
for
for your time, everyone.
Hope we meet in person soon, Andrew. Let's make that work, right?
Well, I'm sure I'll be down there soon.
Okay. Thanks so much. Thanks. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.